Now I'm going to show you how to do the two cover methods that are in the template instructions. One of them is called the raw edge method and one of them is called the wrapped edge method. So I'm going to show you how to do both of those, and it's all in the instructions, but you know, sometimes I'm a visual person, so I'm just going to show you. I'm just going to show you. So the raw edge covers, I'm going to use the Frolic Blue Fern designs, and then for the wrapped edge, I'm going to use Marion Smith's Garment District designs. Yes, and I'm pretty sure. Let me double check. Yeah, Marion Smith Garment District. Yes, I love Marion Smith. She's inspired me to do so much stuff. So as you can see, I printed off with the black with hers. I'm going to do the raw edge first, and then I'll do the wrapped edge. Okay, so I've got my three pieces. I've got my liner piece, I've got my cover piece, and I've got my spine piece. Remember to print that on the back side of whatever paper. Look, I even left myself a little post-it note of whatever paper you want to be your spine piece. I'm going to be using my heavy-duty Fiskars paper trimmer. And then I'm also going to be using some, you can use chipboard, but I'm going to use some recycled material. There's a piece of a cereal box, and then this was in some pattern paper or pattern cards, or a 12 by 12 cardstock, and it's like a really thin corrugated cardboard. So I'm going to be using one for each one of the methods. So I think I use this one for the wrapped, and then this one I will use for the raw edge. Okay, so we're going to start with the raw edge method. So you have two choices. You can completely cut it out all the way around and cut it in pieces and glue it down to your cover material of your choice, or you can glue it directly down to your cover material. I think mine might be too skinny for that. Yeah, I'll just trim it all the way out. Let's just do that. And this is my favorite paper trimmer. And, well, remember to save all your pieces. That's what I made my instruction manual for, to house all those different pieces so that they didn't get lost. And that video should be up soon, if it isn't already, but there'll be a link in the description box below. But I am going to keep the two pieces together for now because I want to be able to get a clean line in the middle. So now I'm just going to glue that down to there really simply. And I'm going to use some Fabri-Tac, or you can use double-sided adhesive like a tape runner. Depends on what you want to do with your covers. But I'm going to use Fabri-Tac. This one, it gives you a minute to kind of move it around, and it's a really good hold. Sometimes this is good too, but sometimes it comes apart depending on what climate you're in. So right now, the area that I'm in is extremely humid all the time, and it's extremely annoying. So you just want to get the glue. You want to make sure you cover as much of the paper as you possibly can. And another reason why I like using this Fabri-Tac glue is that you can wiggle it around so that, oh look, I said you can wiggle it, and then it just attached right on down. Well, you know what I mean. You got a little wiggle room. And I'm going to burnish it a little bit. It wouldn't normally work on top of my paper trimmer, but I got some more stuff to show you. Alright, I'm going to let that dry for a minute, and then I'm going to go ahead and cut out my liners. Alright, I'm going to cut my liners out, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I've cut my liners out, my inside liners, and I cut them into two pieces, and then the spine piece I cut out all the way around all four edges, and then the exact middle, the one that does not have a gap next to it, that's where you want to cut your two spine pieces apart. Sorry, I'm a little out of breath. I had to run get the dogs. So they're exactly the same. There's no difference in the two of these. So one's meant to be on the back side and one's meant to be on the inside. So I'm going to set these aside for a minute, and I'm going to move this out of the way. And then I'm going to get my Score Pal scoring mat up underneath here, and I am going to trim it out. You can use my paper trimmer, probably would have went through this just fine, my heavy duty one. You can use your craft knife, but I tend to believe that when you're cutting through chipboard and recycled cardboard and stuff, you kind of dull your blade a little bit. So I'm just going to use my box cutter knife thingy here, and I'm going to trim out very carefully around the 4 edges. I'm going to keep this piece to use as the spine piece. And then you want to cut them apart. So you need to decide which one's your front cover and which one's your back cover. If this is your front cover, then your spine is going to be covering part of that, so just keep that in mind. So I think I'm going to have this one as my front cover so I don't cover up all this pretty stuff right here. So then you want to flip them over and decide which one's going to be your front liner and which one's going to be your back liner. The same thing, you can use a dry tape runner adhesive, or you can use the Fabri-Tac. I like the Fabri-Tac. And I'm going to try to get all the edges pretty good. And do some swirling on the inside. It's a fancy technique. I don't know if you know it or not, but that is an extremely professional technique. All the best paper crafters use it. Okay. I'm being silly. And then you just want to line it up the best you can. You can always trim off any excess paper and use your ink. Ink's your best friend. Your distress ink or your archival ink. See, there's just a teeny little bit of an overhang right there, so I'll probably trim that off. And you just want to burnish it down too. And then we repeat with the back side, with the back cover. Okay, that looks pretty good. Next step is going to be the spine. So what you will need is your 2 spine pieces. You'll need a piece of cardboard. You can do this a couple different ways. Let me get a straight edge on my cardboard. You can print the spine piece out on white cardstock, and then you can cut the center. Hang on, let me show you what I'm talking about. You can cut the center piece out, and then you can lay that on your cover choice material and trace it and then trim it out. That way you don't have to do any measuring at all. Or you can hold your piece of cover material. You want to go right inside that. There's 4 marks. This is the outer mark, this is an inside mark, outer mark, okay? So you want to go right inside the 2 inside marks. So I'm going to grab a pen, and I'm just going to mark, I'm going to line that one edge up, and then I'm just going to mark where this other edge is, right there. And I'm going to trim that up. Maybe I'll do this part too. Then I will also mark exactly where the edge is on the bottom side. So then you just want to line it up on your grid or use your paper trimmer, whichever way. Then line your ruler up. It's okay if you're under, but don't go over. If you go over those inner marks, it's not going to work properly. And then you want to flip it around. This way you don't have to measure. The whole point of these templates is so you don't have to do a whole lot of measuring. You just go with the flow. Let the creative mojo take you. All right, so now, before you attach anything to the cover, we'll have to ink the edges. But this is going to be my outside piece, so it's going to go like this on the outside, and it's going to wrap around to the back side. So I want to make sure that I've got that positioned the right way. And then I'm going to add, I think I'm going to add some, oops, looks like it might be too long. Let me just trim a hair off of it, because I know y'all could see that hair extra chipboard or a recycled cereal box. All right, so that's better. So I'm going to glue it down. Well, I think I'm just going to use glue. I'm going to get glue all over the back here. And then you just want to carefully not get glue in those little 1/8 of an inch gaps that you got there. Don't go over that mark, and you should be just fine. You want to burnish it down a little bit. So before we go any further, before I forget, because I will, I am going to just ink these two edges right here. Archival. It is in coffee from Ranger. I got me a new one, so it didn't look so funky-fied. I'm going to go ahead and order. I'm going to go ahead and ink all of them, I guess. You can use whatever your favorite ink is. If you print it off in black, then use the black ink. All right, so then I'm going to take my front cover and I'm going to flip it over. And on the left-hand side of that spine piece, I am going to glue this down. Now you could glue just the certain edges and leave this open and have things. As a matter of fact, I might do that so that you can slide stuff under there if you want to. Just careful not to get it in the gap. And then with that outermost marking there, that's where you want to line up the edge of this. So you don't want to, let me see, you don't want to go over it. You want to get close to it. You want to line the top and bottom edges up. And double check before you do too much smooshing. Smooshing down. Alright, that looks good. Then I'm going to take the back cover and I'm going to do the same thing. Same thing, you want to flip it over to where you're looking at the inside of the cover. And you want to butt it up to that line, that outermost line there. Alright, then you want to get your other spine piece, because we got the outside spine. Let's go ahead and ink this up. So you want to make sure you got it facing the right way up if it's got an up. And then you want to make sure that you put the part that you printed on this way, facing that way. So what you want to do is, again, careful not to get glue inside those lines. You want to cover the spine with glue or with double-sided strong tape. And then the best way I can think to do it is to run a bead of glue along the edge of your front and back covers there, not too close because you don't want it to seep into that gap. I'm losing my voice today. And then you want to run a bead of glue on each edge of this piece and maybe across the, because you can see just like that. And then before you put it down, you want to make sure you got it the right way you want it. And then the same thing, you just want to line it up as best you can with the other spine piece. So when you put it on, you want to try to make sure that you've got it exactly the same. Okay, and you really want to burnish this part down. You don't want that coming up. And before you start to try to fold it, which I'm not very patient usually, and I usually mess it up, you want to give it some time to dry. All right, I can't wait anymore. I need to get on. I need to start bending it. All right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip it over to the inside. I'm going to take my bone folder and I'm going to gently push where that gap is on both sides. And then I'm going to slowly start to bend it up. You don't want to hurt the paper too bad. You want to make sure it stays stuck So just slowly work on it. There should be big enough gap there that it should not rip and tear. Plus that helps. It helps the paper stay stuck. Okay. So just gently do a little bit of this, not too much. You definitely don't want to rip the paper. So you just want to gently bend it like that. And then you can take your ink of choice and just do the spine parts if you want to. So then the guts of the book will go right in here, just like that. And then you'll have like 1/4 of an inch on either side from left to right, and it'll center right on in there. See, just like that. And then you're almost done. All right, so this is the raw edge method, which is easy, right? And this is using the frolic paper. So now I'm going to show you how to do the wrapped edge method. So I've already got my pages printed out. So here's the front cover. Here's the lining pages. And then here is the spine, which I printed on the back side of this paper. I thought it'd be really pretty to have that as the spine. Now, I have made an error printing out, which stinks because I love this paper, but that's okay. Don't make the same error I made. On the cover page, the cover pages, even when you wrap the page or wrap the covers around the chipboard, you can also mat the cover page with this page right here. Oops, wrong page. With one of the main pages. This one is the top page, number 3. So you can print this out and cut the spine part out, and you can then mat it without having to measure. But since I messed up and made a boo-boo, I printed out 2 cover pieces, so I'm going to have to trim this one down just slightly before I attach it. So I need to remind myself to do that, because I'll probably forget, because that's the story of my life these days. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is don't cut all the way around. You want to cut your front cover in half. Just like that. So now you have your front and your back cover pieces separated. And you also want to do the same thing with your spine piece. Goodness. So I'm going to cut mine in half. And then on one of your spine pieces, the piece that's going to be the outside of your book, you want to then cut this piece off and leave the top and the bottom there. You just want to cut this longer piece off right there. And then on the other spine piece, the spine piece that goes on the inside, you want to take all of the surrounding extra paper off. Alright, so now you have a choice. So this is going to be the inside spine, so it's going to be like this. So you can either have it flush with the edge of the chipboard covers, which I don't like that, or you can cut a little bit off of the top or bottom. So I think I'm just going to cut about 1/8 of an inch off for now, and if I need to cut more off when I get, before I attach it down, I will. Alright, so the spine is ready, and then with the the liner pieces, you want to, I'm going to trim mine down. You want to take all 4 edges and then split it in half. Okay, so I've got all of the 4 outer edges trimmed off, and since I told you, remember I made the boo-boo, I'm going to go ahead and trim another smidge off, like 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch, or maybe somewhere in between, just in case. So I'm just going to trim just a sliver. It's not that much, but I like the matted look more so than the, when you wrap the edges, I like it to be matted. And then you want to trim it in half. So then these will be the inside liners. For the spine piece, you want to make yourself a template, and also for the, not just for the spine piece, but you also want to make it for the cover piece, so that you can, if you don't want to measure, that way you can just trace it out or glue it down, either way, and that way you can do it without doing any measuring. So let me move these out of the way. So what I did is I printed off another one of the spine pieces, and it was like this. And I just cut out the middle part, because I am going to use this as a template for my spine piece. And then I'm just going to put those aside. So I've got both templates. And get my cutting mat back out. Okay. So you can, like I said, you can either glue these down, print two out, glue them down, or you can, since I'm going to need 3 pieces, I think I'm just going to, well, if I can, there we go. I'm going to mark it, and I'm going to cut it straight down, all the way down, because I think both pieces and the spine I can get out of this piece here. Remember, this is the corrugated, the really thin corrugated cardboard that was like the backing in something. So I didn't, you know what, I better mark this piece too, just in case. This bottom part. I don't want to get off too bad. I'm using my box cutter. Just do a couple swipes. So what I'm going to do before I put any more marks, I'm going to go ahead and trim each piece out individually. This is kind of fun. It's kind of gushy. And then the next piece, mark it. And then this last piece. Alright, so now I've got all 3 of my pieces cut. And I'm going to make sure I keep my templates for the next time. My liners, there's my inner spine, outer spine, my cover piece. Let's see, it probably would have been easier to print this on the back side for lining up. It probably would be easier. If you have trouble lining things up, then print it on the back side. That way you can line it up perfectly. That's exactly what I should have done, actually. I know it would have been easier. So, alright, another boo-boo. But we're going to move on again. Alright, so what you want to do, since I've messed up again, I need to keep that facing up. You want to do the same thing. You want to glue these pieces down. And if you printed it on the back side of the covers when you're doing this method, then it would be easy peasy to line up. You just follow the marks as a guide. And now I'm going to have to be really careful. If you make the mistake that I did, just try to line the top and bottom edge with the black marks, you know. Just like that. And hopefully it will be perfect, but if it's not, I've got ink to cover up my imperfections. So what you end up with is this. So now you have paper that goes all the way around that you can wrap around your edges. So let me do that one more time. Okay, and while those 2 pieces are drying, I'm going to add my spine piece. And this is on the back side of my spine piece. That's another trick too. If you've got some really dark pattern cardstock that you don't think your printer will be able to, the ink will be able to show up on your printout, just print it on the back side and it should be good to go. So then you just want to line it up, top, bottom, side to side. Don't go over anything. It should line up just perfect for if you used your template. Maybe make sure you got it on top and bottom too. Yep. Yep. Okay. Now I'm going to put that one aside to dry too. Let's go back to these. So what you want to do is you can use the fancy corner majiggy thingy, or you can just cut the corners off at an angle, leaving at least the thickness of whatever cover material you're using. So I'm recycling some corrugated cardboard. So you just need to do the 2 outside corners. You don't need to do the other one. All right. And then I like to take my bone folder and score it right along the edge of the cardboard, whatever material you're using. Just like that. And then I want to gently fold that up on that score mark. And then I want to score again against the top part, so that when I fold it over, it'll fold over a little bit easier. So I'm going to go ahead, oops, look at the cardboard bent a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and do that for both pieces. So then you just kind of want to go ahead and prep it so that it doesn't crack. I don't really think Marion Smith's paper, her paper is such good quality. I don't think hers cracks very much, if at all. Just kind of want to prep it though, just in case. We definitely, if it cracks, it just adds character, right? So there's just enough paper along the outside edge there to wrap this up. Now you'll notice there's a raw side, but the reason for that is because it's going to get attached to the spine piece. So again, you have your choice of whatever glue you want to use. I'm going to continue to use, oh, you know what? I think I'll use the tape runner. This is a ATG gun by Scotch. And I think I'm just going to use this because it's going to have another sheet over top. And plus I want it to grab pretty quick. So I also want you to notice too, when I'm using tape gun, I'll go over the corner of that cardboard as well. That way it all sticks down. And go around all 3 sides. And this stuff's pretty good. This tape is pretty good, I have to say. So I do the top and bottom first, and then I like to tuck my corners in. Depending on how thick your paper is whether or not you have to really work at doing that. And then you want to just fold that over. Glue booger. Just like that. So now you have a wrapped cover. Now look, since I did make my boo-boo, see how it's off a little bit? Okay, so that's okay. We're just going to use the black archival ink or whatever black ink that you happen to have. And you just want to go right over the edges, and you can't hardly even tell. And if somebody nitpicks about that, well, then they don't deserve your scrapbook now, do they? So since I made my boo-boo, I'm going to have to ink my edges, it looks like. And that's okay. I'm going to go ahead and ink both sides. Ooh, I did crack just a tiny bit. I don't know if you can tell. But that's okay. And I'm not being real careful about my inking, am I? Inking? Alright, so I'm going to do the same thing. I think this one's going to be my back cover. I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm going to do the same thing to this side. Do my top and bottom first. Alright. Looks pretty good. Okay, and see, I'm off still. So I'm going to go back with my ink. You'll never know. Alright, so these 2 covers are ready. And let me go ahead and ink the spine piece to make sure there's no white edges on the side there, because it looks like it's got a white paper core. I didn't need to do that edge, but now all we have to do, well, we may need to make sure where you stay in the right. Do I want it this way? So we just need to make sure that we attach them to where they're facing us. The pattern is going the same way. Okay, so I am going to glue this part down, and I'm going to do the same thing I did with the raw edge method. Is I'm going to go along the raw edge of the cover like that, and then I'm going to go on the edge And if you want to leave it open, you can, to like tuck something in there if you want to. But then you use those marks. Don't go over that middle score line there. And then you want to line it up top to bottom. And it may go over just a smidge on those marks, but that's okay. On this mark and this mark, just don't go over the middle mark. And you will have no problem. So that one's good. Then I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to do the same thing here. Alright, make sure I've got my pattern facing the right way. I don't guess it really matters now at this point. It better face the right way. And line it up without going over that middle line. And then you want to make sure it's even top and bottom. You may even want to use your ruler to like butt it up just to make sure they're all the same. Looks like it is. That makes me happy. Okay. Alright, and you want to let that dry. Looks like that might need a minute. I'm going to let it dry and I'll be right back. Alrighty, I think we got it. I think we got it good and dry. Not good and dry, but dry enough. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to score along this edge here. And along this edge here. And I'm going to fold it up and over. Maybe I'll do the score again. It does seem to help not break the paper. Okay. So then you just want to gently fold it up and over. So now you don't have any raw edges on your spine, which is awesome. Okay, so now we're going to glue them down. Remember not to get glue in the gaps. It's really hard to do, I know. So you just want to kind of go here, a little bit right there, and go along this. You just kind of want to use that as a guide to not go in there. A little bit there, a little bit there. Remember, there's going to be liners, so it's not going to hurt anything if you miss a tiny spot. And you just want to fold it over, hold it for a minute. If you were using the strong double-sided adhesive, then it would have tacked immediately. Okay, so there's one edge, one clean. Oh, look, see, it cracked a little bit. I wasn't gentle enough with it. That's okay though. Look, what? Done, gone. All right, let me do the other side. And then while I've got this open right here, I'm gonna gently push in between those gaps there, just so it'll be easier to fold up when I'm done. I went ahead and inked my edges, my outside edges that are gonna line. Remember my boo-boo where I printed off a cover instead of a map page? So I'm gonna line these up right here, and then this is gonna go here. So it looks like I did a pretty good job. So this is easy. The mats are easy to attach. You can use glue or tape, whichever is your favorite. And just give us a good amount of glue. I don't know if this has an up and a down. That kind of looks right side up. Which way's up? Oh, is this way up? Make sure you put it right. I think this is right. So I think there's about 1/8 of an inch all the way around. You definitely don't want it going over this gap here. Give it a good press. It tacks pretty quick. To the other one. Okay, so when you're putting your spine piece on, you want to make sure you go around all of the edges without getting it in the gap. I'm hoping I'm saying that enough that y'all are getting it. Do not get it in the gap. No matter what method you're using, glue in the gap is bad. And then all you gotta do is line it up with the other piece, with the other spine piece. It should be exact, almost exact, or pretty darn close to exact. As exact as exact can get. Now, it depends on how you trim. Depends on your paper trimming skills, and sometimes mine are lacking. So I'm just gonna line it up there as good as I can. I might have trimmed just a hair too much off of the one end, but no going back now. All right, and then you definitely want to give this time to dry before you start manipulating the pages. All right, good enough. Now I'm going to start gently pushing in, working the paper a little bit so it doesn't crack. Plus it's keeping the paper from bubbling up in different odd spots. Alright, let's see if I can just gently... I don't want to tear the paper. I would be upset. That is such a pretty color combination, right? Love it. And the Harlequin on there. I probably didn't need to put the pattern on here because it had a pretty pattern to begin with, but I wanted to use it, so I did. That's the good thing about this template, is you do what you want to do. And that's where my error occurred, because I should have printed it on the back side. But no big deal. Alright, so there is the wrapped covers. And then here is the raw edge. Do you see the difference? I'm sure you can. You obviously saw me do the difference. So they're both exactly the same size. There's no difference in the sides. One of them just has a raw edge, which is fine, and the other one just has a wrapped edge. So either method, either way you like, this template can accommodate, but for now, those are the two cover choices that are in the instructions for the Stack the Pages printable mini album. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.